Before we begin, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Aditya Shah, and I work as a hosting support manager and a manager. Uh, right, so like, we have a hosting as a product, and then I'm creating manager construction. Second thing is like I'm from Bhopal, India, right? And I have been a contributor of WordPress through meetups, organizing WordCamps, doing photo contribution. You can all see all of my profile badges over there, right? All right. So coming to the session again, the session goals. Let's discuss the session goals. What we are going to discuss in the session is understand how your website gets infected, or like for example, like we all know, like whenever we started using the computer, we know that the computer gets infected by the viruses, by the malwares, and we have to install antivirus softwares and things like that, right? So similarly, like every website can get hacked, and some people may infected by the viruses or malwares to steal your information or to gain access to your data and things like that, right? We will see how a malware look like. So how you identify if your website is actually malware infected or not. Learn how to identify the malware and isolate it, right? So it doesn't harm much. Next is we will also discover tools and techniques on how you can detect and clean up the malwares. Right? All right. So next is how WordPress gets infected. So first question, right? We need to understand how a WordPress website works and how it gets infected. So sometimes people say it can be due to the server security because every website is hosted on a server, and that server may not be secure enough to protect your website. So that is a thing, but not the only thing that is responsible for your website to get hacked, right? So the second thing that is on my list is your plugins and themes and WordPress that you are using, right? So although WordPress is secure in itself, every plugin and themes that are hosted on WordPress.org or basically hosted anywhere else are secure enough, but with the time they need some updation, right? So if a theme or plugin or WordPress itself is not updated, it might have security breaches, like vulnerabilities, and people can use those vulnerabilities to access to your website and infect those things. Right? So your plugins, themes, and WordPress, everything is responsible for your website to get hacked. The next thing is whenever you are using weak passwords, people can use brute force attacks, and like try a different combination of your passwords. If the password is weak enough, it would be cracked and people would be able to get access to your website and can infect the website altogether. Next is the learned plugins and themes that you will be using. So sometimes we might like some plugin or theme that is paid, but we still want to use it, right? A lot of people use that. When I started using WordPress, I was like, oh, I don't want to build a lot of things, and I can just buy the theme. Or since I was a student back then, I did not like buying a thing, right? So I was always trying to find it for free. And whenever you are finding something for free that is actually paid, that 100% means that it has some infected code, like not infected but some modified code, because like nobody is purchasing something for you. They are purchasing something and then adding some malicious code or something like that. So they can also benefit when you are installing that theme or plugin, right? So avoid using those non-plugins themes because that may contain malicious files or vulnerable files. Last is the poor hosting security. So again, like if your website hosting is not secure enough, it can lead to your website malwares, website having malwares. Now coming to the next point, how you would know that your website is actually infected, right? So we need to understand how a malware infected website looks like, and like if you're so for example, like first thing is whenever you are opening your website like google.com, and it redirects to a spam page or something like that, then that is a sign of a malware infected website. Second point is whenever you see like whenever you are opening your website and you see a red page sometimes with a warning like this may contain malicious files, this may be a spam, this may be a lot of there may be a lot of messages. So that can also be a sign that your website is malware infected. Right. Next one is unusual. So whenever you see your files of your website in a file manager or SSH or SFTP, and you see a lot of PHP files or weird name files, that also shows like that your website may be malware infected, and those files that you are looking at are malicious files. Right. So if you see any weird files that can be malicious. The next is sudden drop of traffic. So, for example, if you were getting like 1,000 visits per day or 1,000 visits per month, and that suddenly drops to hundreds, then that may also be a sign that your website may be malicious, hosting malicious files, or it may be infected. So, it is a sign, though it does not confirm it's infected or not. So, in that case, you again need to do a scan and check if it is malicious, like malware infected or not. How you can check that? We will be seeing that further. All right. So, do you see on the screen like what's written on the screenshots? So, if you can see that, you should be able to see a black screen with a lot of code. So that code basically shows up a malformed WP config file. So if there is a malware in WP config file, it looks something like this. So basically, whenever you want to see like if my website is infected, you can just see WP config. If it looks like this, then you know like it is infected. Second one is okay. So this one, if you see this one, it's again code that is a malware within a file. So this kind of code can be inserted into a functions.php, in a MU plugin, in wp-config.php, in a lot of occasions. The next screenshot that you see in dark, it's a tool called SiteCheck by Suturi. And if you paste any of the malware infected site link in that tool, you should be able to see like if that contains any malware involved. So again, these are some tools or some ways that you can see like how your website is infected or not. Now, first response plan. So like if you now know that your website is infected or it looks like infected, you need to do these three things. First thing is don't panic because a website can get infected, but you can just clear it, right? You don't have to panic. Second, put the site in the maintenance mode. So if somebody is visiting your site and posting some sort of credentials or data, they are safe, right? At least from this point on. Next is take a full site backup. So just in case while you are cleaning up your site, you may delete any important data. So if you take a backup, you always are secure. Like you can always restore from that backup and clear up. Right? These are the three important things that you need to do when you confirm your site is encrypted. The next part is to understand how WordPress looks like before we actually go into cleanups. Right? So we haven't started the cleanup, but we now need to understand how WordPress looks like. So if you see the screenshot, you should be able to see like all of the files and folders that WordPress has. Right? Do you see anything unusual like which shouldn't exist in that folder? Anybody? Anyone? Okay. I can tell you. So all of the WordPress like code files does not contain the WordPress folder that you can see. Right? So that is not part of the WordPress code. If you see WP plugins folder in there, in the top screenshot, that should be there as well. So if you see these kind of, so this is what we need to understand. Like we need to understand how WordPress looks like, how the files should look like, If you see any other folders or files within the WP core, that means that those shouldn't be there. And we should question our developers or whoever created the website if they created the folder or files. If not, we should just delete them. Right? That's the first part of like a cleanup. The next, if you see the screenshot on the below, it's the screenshot from the WP content. That's how the WP content should look like. If you see any other extra plugins, extra files and folders other than the plugins, themes, uploads, MU plugins, and the drop-ins, you should be deleting everything. Like, of course, like after checking like what's in there, or if you or your developer intentionally created those. If those are not created intentionally, those might be the target of the hacker. Right? So we should be reviewing any other files other than these files that are missing. Right? The next thing. So now coming to the tools. So this was the manual inspection that everybody should be doing when you are, dealing with a malware infected site. The next part is doing some automated change. So like we are all newbies, right? So now if you are newbies, you might not be knowing how WordPress looks like or how you should actually go with it, right? What do you think? So the easiest thing is like installing antivirus software and scanning your website for the malicious change files, right? So that's the easiest, right? Now, if you want to scan your website, there are a couple of tools, or well, a lot of tools, but I'm going to talk about a couple of tools. First one is Security Site Check that we already talked about a bit back. So it's an online tool. You can just search for Security Site Check, and there would be a page. You can just paste your website link there, and it will just scan whole of your website and show you like which files may be infected, right? And then you can manually inspect those files and remove those or replace those with the fresh files, right? The second is the Defender plugin. This is one of the plugins. You can use WordPress, all-in-one security, and there are a lot of plugins, right? So you can use any of those plugins to scan whole of your WordPress installation, and it would just tell you, just like your antivirus told you, like when you start using your computers, and it would just show you all of the files that may be malicious, that may be containing malicious code, or the extra files, or the malware infected files. Right? So this plugin can be used. Then there are server specific tools. So whoever is a DevOps or server guys, they can just install WP CLI on your WordPress installation and run some checks like WP Core Verify checksums that compares your WordPress with the official WordPress. That compares basically file to file. And if a file is different from what it should be, it will report all of those files. Or if you have any extra files in the core, it will also show you all of those files. So you can just compare those files and see like if something is weird, you can just replace those files, and that's how you clean it. The next part is the manual cleanup steps. So like I was saying, what you need to do is access your website files when you want to clean up your site. So you can access your files through either SSH or SFTP or file manager. You can use any of those. Then compare those files or check those files which we just saw. Like if you have anything weird in your WP core, then that might be the malicious files, right? So you can check those and delete those or replace those. The next one is check for any suspicious code manually that you already did. Check for any of the PHP files. So if you know WP content has an uploads folder. Uploads folder should only contain the media files, right? Media files as in images, videos, PDFs, things like that. But if you see any of the PHP files, that might be malware, because none of the plugins should ideally be storing any of the PHP files in uploads, right? So you can basically delete all of the PHP files from uploads if there is any. Right. So we until now discussed how you can check for the malicious files malware files like codes. So everything manually. So up until now, you clean everything manually. Now what you need to do is once you saw all of the files and cleaned up those manually, what you need to do now is reinstall all of the plugins. So in general, like there are only a couple of files that stay as it is. When you update WordPress or update plugins or update themes, those are WP config files. Um, I think that's the only file, or there can be a couple of files. But other than that, everything gets replaced when you update WordPress in the code. And when you update your plugins, everything within the plugins gets updated, all of the files. So if there was a malware and you update a plugin, that will remove all of the malware and replace the plugin with the fresh files. So that's how you clean. So you don't really go and delete each file individually. Instead, you just remove the folder entirely and replace with the fresh files. So that's even easier and time efficient. Right. So what you do is replace all of the keys, all of the plugins, all of the code, and once you clean these things, your website would mostly be, malware free. So that's what is mentioned there as well. Now that you replaced everything, your website is now clean. Right, and then now you can go back to your site's front end and check like if there is any sign of malware infection now. If there is nothing, then it's time to do a couple of post cleaning things. So, for example, you already updated everything. That is number one. Second, change all of the passwords. That can be WP admin password. That can be FTP password. That can be hosting passwords. Basically, change all of the passwords. So, if anybody got many of the accesses from somewhere, now they don't have access to infect your site again. The next is remove any of the unused WP admin accounts or FTP accounts or hosting accounts. Remove everything that you don't recognize. The next one is remove, set permissions of the files to correct ones. That is 604 for files and 755 for folders. The next thing is tools for prevention of malwares. Is use some of the tools like WP Defender, which can scan your site every single day or every single week and send you reports. So you can keep an eye on your website and clean up as soon as possible. Right. Second is the story firewall. So you can also implement that. So it can provide a CDN to the website. It can also scan your website. It can check for integrity of the files. Right. Also, the important thing is keep a backup of your website away from the server. So in case of your website gets infected again, you can just install the backup, and that's the easiest part. So coming to the conclusion, key takeaways. Prevention is better than cure, so you should always install some security plugins. Keep scans per day, so you can always monitor your website. As soon as it gets infected, you can just clean it up, because as the time passes, it takes more time, more time and more efforts to clean the site. Always keep your WordPress plugins, themes, and WordPress itself updated, so your website doesn't get infected again. Keep backups. Know your tools. Invest in learning basic security. Hygiene. Right. So basically, do all of the things that we have mentioned, that we have talked about. So that's thank you. And if you have any questions, and you can connect if you want.